All right, yo, Silent Lord TJ, we're back with another video, back with another Creative Division video, off-season video. Like I said in the last video, I'm gonna say it here again. This is gonna be a brand new off-season video format that I'm gonna be testing out. So, to kick off things, first off, everything's gonna be split into chapters for each team. But of course, there's some things we're gonna overly talk about what's going on in the league. But also, more importantly, each team will have their own chapter. So go check in the description to see which team you guys want to hear because it'll be for all four different chapters. But to kick off the offseason video, we have to talk about all four teams' key thing this offseason. Las Vegas is coming in as defending Super Bowl champions. They won against Washington and they ended up dominating that game, winning 49-17. Now, now you also go on to the team that people thought was going to be in the Super Bowl, New Mexico. They want revenge after they came up literally a field goal short because Vegas held the ball and they played well and they played smart to prevent Reggie from getting the ball back. Now the question is with New Mexico, does New Mexico trust Reggie? Can they really feel like they could go the distance with Reggie? Because given being how clutch Reggie Butler was this season, I mean, they have to stick by him and at least improve and at least try to improve the offense. So New Mexico's goal is to improve the offense and also slightly improve the defense. Even though the defense was dominant, but the defense was the thing that ended up costing them. So they're gonna look out for revenge, mainly gunning for the Super Bowl champions. Also, Salt Lake. Salt Lake comes in after they nearly missed the playoffs, 9-7. All they had to do was win one game, beat Alaska. All they had to do was beat Alaska, which the team we'll get into in a moment. All they had to do was beat them, and they would have had a shot in the playoffs. They would have had a shot. They would have been in the playoffs, but they lost. They choked, and now this season they're looking to bounce back. Are they going to stay with Snyder as their starting quarterback? Because I did say Salt Lake could potentially draft a late round quarterback just to see how things go. But their main focus is to actually build around Powers because Powers is a great running back for them, and they might as well build their offense around him and also get some more weapons on the receiver end. But debate what they're going to do on quarterback. Now, Alaska. The first team we're going to be talking about. They arguably had the worst record they did have the worst record in the entire NFL. And they have the first overall pick. With spectacles of them getting a brand new quarterback and them actually trying to flat out revamp the entire offense because their defense somewhat did good, but their lack of offense that we've seen is abysmal. The surprise that they even beat Salt Lake and they beat New Mexico. Surprising that they beat those two teams. But with the first overall pick, Alaska is looking to at least compete with Vegas, New Mexico, and Salt Lake. Because Salt Lake was one game away from making the playoffs. Alaska's goal is just trying to compete with those three teams. So, first and foremost, subscribe if you guys are new. Without further ado, let's go to the first team, Alaska. All right, before we fully go into the full breakdowns for all four teams this all season, of course, gotta get down to retirements. I did say there's gonna be some things neutral will be looking. Joe Thomas is forced to retire due to a fractured vertebrae. Damn. Andre Barber and Tiki Barber, the brothers, retired. Booking Ricky Williams, Carney Sims, Matt Burial, Driver retired. Ray Lewis retired. Fletcher retired. Darren Sharper retired. Lawyer Roy retired. Heinz Ward retired, T.O. retired, Karen. All right. These are all the people that retired. Now on to the Alaska Hawks. All right. Now, let's get to it. Alaska, in terms of re-signing, had a lot of free agents, and the Hawks' main goal was to gain some experience in free agency, but also keep some of their starters so that way they can at least have some type of experience on their roster. Now, they were debating about who they wanted to sign or who they wanted to keep. Now, they did have a big signing, though, in free agency, but they managed to keep the offensive line together to protect the future of their franchise, in which it could potentially be a quarterback. But, like I said, the Alaska Hawks have to come down to between two players. It's between, as you guys are going to see, it's between Watt and Griffin. Those are the two players that, in terms of the Alaska Hawks, they want to as their starting quarterback. As you see,
David Fry is another one. He's another option. But in terms of recruiting, in terms of scouting, their main goal is to get as much key pieces as possible to build a contending team. Not a contending, but a team that could hold their own against Alaska, Salt Lake, New Mexico, and Vegas. Because their main goal was to, like I said, really add some more key pieces to make the team better because like I said, they only won 2 games last season, and both of those 2 games was against division rivals in an upset against New Mexico and another victory against Salt Lake that took them out of the playoffs. Now, their goal this year is to not to be a laughing stock because they saw the fact that Vegas won the Super Bowl, Salt Lake barely missed the playoffs, and New Mexico looks like they are one of the top teams overall in the league, along with Las Vegas and Salt Lake. Three of the teams in the division are top are at number one, basically, are fighting for number one. Because it feels like that for the Alaska front office, their goal is that they don't want to be overlooked. They don't want to be the team that people be like, you know what? There's 3 great teams in the division, and then there's Alaska, equivalent to in real life for the NFC East. It was like you look at how good Washington did, how good Philly did, and the Giants being the Giants, and then everyone is like, hey, look at the Cowboys. Everyone looks at them, and but when it came down to draft time, they were they had to make a decision. Was it gonna be Griffin, or was it going to be Watt Beasley? It came between the two people. Now, people did want Watt Beasley because West Coast kids from Oregon, but they felt like Keelan was the better quarterback. I mean, if you look at the ratings, in a way, it looked like Keelan was better, and he could possibly be the star player that Alaska needs to have a whole resurgence, and not only resurgence, but to make sure that they are competing against 3 of the best teams, arguably in the AFC. But Griffin or Beasley and the fans, after going back and forth, and the office after going back and forth the entire time, ever since dating back to the end of the season, they decided to go what they felt like was the best player and the best quarterback and the best candidate to lead their team to the future. Keelan Griffin was selected with the first overall pick of the draft, and as you see, they had a decent receiving class. They had a decent class. They picked up some weapons. They picked up in round 2. They picked up Jacorvius Bray, as you guys saw. But what I also want to talk about before we get into the rest of them is how much Alaska paid Keelan Griffin. This is where the NFL media was like, "You gave him how much?" Like literally, the entire league was like, "You gave him how much money?" $80 million. As you see, Jacorius Bray came in the second round, and then you have Jacoby Petaway, wide receiver, just to give Griffin some weapons, and Khalil Justice at corner. But also a sleeper pick is 6th round pick Ray, which you guys are gonna see later on. Well, later on we talk about Alaska. That Ray may have been an underrated pick. People thought that Petaway was going to be the main guy, but that is a underrated pick by them. So they think that they could do something here, and they want to build something with Keelan, and they think because the goal is, like I said, when you draft a new QB, NFL teams usually sometimes most of the time don't really know what to do, especially if it's a top 5, top 10 overall quarterback. It's rare that we have guys like Josh Allen, Baker Mayfield, Peyton Manning. I mean, I know just add them, but the first overall picks that are deep, that are great, and that could hold their own as being starting quarterbacks in the NFL for longevity. That's what I meant by comparing Baker Mayfield and Josh Allen to Peyton Manning, but that's a whole different story. That's not even a discussion, but neither here or there. But also, the goal is, like I said, they want to build an overall unit to where, like I said, they need experience. They need to get pieces that can help Keelan on offense and the keys to help them out on defense. Because regardless, it has to come down to who's going to make the big plays. How are they going to be able to beat the 3 teams like New Mexico, Vegas, and Salt Lake? Because people can say they got lucky against Salt Lake. They got lucky against New Mexico. But the fact of the matter is, it doesn't matter as long as they won those games. But against everyone else in the league, if they were basically a laughing stock. Basically, they were a doormat for a majority of the NFL, not the NFL, but the majority of the AFC West. But now we go into free agency. Now for free agency, they picked up a key piece. And like I said, don't sleep on Bray because Bray, who's a 6th round pick, is going to be a very underrated target for Leland Griffin. But however, Griffin coming into this has a lot of pressure. But also in free agency, they had a big, great signing that helped them out in a way that helped them out in which they picked up Darnell Dockett, signing him to a 6-year, $69.36 million deal at right end to help out their defense. And then on offense, they picked up another left guard in Brian Waters, who has experience from North Texas. So those are the main two free agency signings that Alaska had. It wasn't really any real free agents on the board. In reality, there wasn't really any real free agents, but I feel like for the next offseason, there should be some good ones. But as you see, Griffin, one of the highest paid players, and as you see, Bray is actually up there as one of the top receivers in on the team, and he was a 6th rounder coming out of Texas. So you might not know Ray and Griffin might might be something. It could take some time. It could take some time, but they know they can't fully rush into things because if you do that, your quarterback's gonna fold under the pressure, and your quarterback is gonna underperform if you keep on putting a lot of pressure on him. Because, like, as we've seen with guys like Bryce Young, they just need a chance to at least simmer down and relax. But Griffin feels like he's ready to be the starting quarterback off rip, that he's ready to be the face of the Alaska Hawks, that he is ready for that. But the thing is, you can be ready, but then the moment you get on that field, everything changes. And for Salt Lake, they they gotta compete. They gotta compete. That's literally not Salt Lake's, Alaska's main goal. They have to compete. That is their goal because seeing 3 out of the 4 AFC West teams, nearly all 3 of them make the playoffs, and 2 of them made it, and 1 of them went to the Super Bowl and ended up winning. They gotta realize that, yo, we gotta get these pieces, we gotta get these guys, we gotta get these players to make sure that we are in line and make sure that we show the rest of the NFC, the AFC West, that we could hold our own. Last year was not a good year for us because we weren't really the best, and given being they were overpowered by Salt Lake, New Mexico, and Vegas, especially against Vegas and New Mexico. The reason why I said that New Mexico victory was lucky, everyone knew that was a fluke victory, and just that New Mexico played a terrible game, and Butler didn't really play the best, and that also Alaska's defense stepped up at that game. They stepped up big time. But the fact of the matter is, now this season, the goal is to at least compete. That's the simple word for Alaska. Compete. That is all. At least they have a winning record. Cool, but they want to at least have a better record than they did last year against the division rivals. Because last year they went, believe, 2-6. It would be 2-6, right? Right, yeah. Hold up, my fault. Brain fart. Brain fart. Brain fart. Leave me alone. Yeah, they went 2-6, 2-6 in 2-6 in divisional play, 2-6. So now they want to up it to at least 4, sneak probably maybe 3, maybe at least get up by 1. But let's be honest though, them trying to go up against a pissed off New Mexico team, a Vegas team that's coming off a chip, and a Salt Lake team that is next, that absolutely shocked the AFC West and shocked their own fans and shocked the entire NFL world with what they did in the draft. That's neither here nor there. I'll show you when that will be the next team we'll talk about. But for Alaska, their fans and their mindset is to at least show signs of improvement. That's the goal. Improve. If they have an improving record and they have a season where they felt like, even though they didn't really make the playoffs or didn't really have the best record, at least they improved off of last season. Like you guys know I'm gonna be playing some of these games as these teams, but simulation also is gonna be playing a factor. Because like I said, there was a lot of games where I didn't have in my control. The games that I wasn't controlling was classics, but the games I wasn't in control in was mainly 4 was mainly based on how good the team was. New Mexico was a great team. Vegas was a great team. And Salt Lake nearly made it. And Alaska got shitted on. That was the case. So it's all about, can this team do it? Because they have Darnell Dockett, they have some help on the offensive line, they have some people who have been in the NFL for a long time to help out their young roster and develop that young roster, especially when they go up against a juggernaut division in yeah, I don't know why I did that, by the way. Like, in the juggernaut division that is the AFC West, in which people are already saying that the AFC West is already one of the top divisions in sports, not just the NFL, in just sports, because of what happened that first year, mainly because of the other three teams, not Alaska, mainly because, like I said, Salt Lake, New Mexico, and Vegas, and being the division, their goal is to compete. Compete is the word. That's the phrase for them this season. And the goal for Griffin is he the guy? Remember, he's getting paid $80 million. In the simulation, I ain't holding his hand. I'm not gonna hold his hand in the simulation, but the first game of the season, it's gonna be a good one, as you guys are gonna see. But now we're going to Salt Lake. Salt Lake. The Salt Lake Rhinos' main goal was to, as usual, well, in terms of signing everybody, they wanted to keep everybody. They wanted to keep all the key players on defense. If you guys know Salt Lake, they were literally one game away from making the playoffs. If they beat the previous team, Alaska, they would have made the playoffs and snuck in, because the Indianapolis Colts also lost. But they lost a 6-3 game against one of the worst teams in the NFL. And that stung Salt Lake fans. That stung worse than the two losses they had against New Mexico. Okay, actually the same level of it stinging, but the thing is, Zack Snyder, what are they gonna do with him? What are they gonna do with Zack Snyder? Because there was spectacles, there was some rumors that they could go quarterback in the draft. Even though it's his contract year next year for Snyder, they kinda wanna go quarterback. Salt Lake is thinking about it. They're thinking about taking that risk and perhaps saying, you know what? Why not? Let's pull, well, a Michael Penix, Kirk Cousins situation. Let's pull the Falcons. Not 20-3 fashion, but in terms of the draft. Because for Snyder, it's a different situation, though. The fans were getting asked about it. They were getting asked about Schneider and a possible new quarterback, and the fans were like, they respected what Schneider did for them their first season. But a part of them was like, in that game against New Mexico when they choked, they should have won. But Snack Schneider in the second half, in the final drive, was nowhere to be found. Meanwhile, and New Mexico and Las Vegas has two quarterbacks capable of putting on game-winning drives. We all know Mr. Clutch, that is Reggie Butler, and we all know what Thornhill did against New Mexico in New Mexico twice. And the only time he slipped up was the last game of the season. But Rhinos' main thing, their main person they were looking at, was Davon Frey from Florida, because they knew Watt was not going to be on the board. So they thought about it. They were like, oh, can we do it? Will we do it? And they decided, you know what? We're going to take a risk. It's a big risk. It's going to be a 50-50 decision, but they feel like if they add a guy like Frey in a receiving core that is somewhat decent, they they could perhaps build something. But Schneider, he proved that he had heart. That was the thing. He had heart, but in the NFL, it's a cruel world, and they still decided to select Davon Frey with the 18th overall pick. But they also got a wide receiver to help out in Sean Reef, and also got themselves another cornerback in Chris Vincent, and also a center in Eddie Morris. So they kind of try to, they try to improve. They try to improve. But now with Devon Frey being the brand new starting quarterback on a 5-year deal, being their 18th overall pick, and in free agency, the only person they really got was Todd Heap. Like I said, there wasn't really anybody in free agency this season. Not at all. But Salt Lake's main motto is make the playoffs. That's it. Make the playoffs. They were right there. They had the team. They had the squad that could have been. My fault, it cut out. But basically, with the brand new quarterback and Davon Frey, they knew that in a way, they felt like they kind of got a guy. They got their guy that could possibly be a better quarterback than Griffin. Now they're in the same division. Things going to get interesting. But like I said, their main motto was make the playoffs. That's their goal. Their goal is to make it. They were one. They had the squad. They had the team. Powers was holding his own as a running back, even though their star Randall was hurt. He had a great performance, and he was a Pro Bowler. Like the writings on the walls for Salt Lake to be a dark horse in the AFC in general, because the way how they played last season, the way how they played last season was Salt Lake. Some people were like this Salt Lake team. That some people were saying, "Yo, if they had a quarterback that like a Thornhill or a Butler, that team easily makes the playoffs and easy is the number one seed." But things that didn't happen. That wasn't the case. They got Frey. The defense is improved. This defense is pissed, by the way. This defense is mad the fact that last season, yes, they were one of the top defenses in the NFL. But against teams like New Mexico and against teams like New Mexico and Vegas, the two major teams that they're really going up against, they fell short. They folded under the pressure. They folded under the bright lights against them because, for again, like I said, against New Mexico, the second matchup on Monday Night Football, it was a close game and they choked. They choked offensively, defensively. It was overall a team choke job like the Atlanta Falcons 28-3. It was a whole team level choke job. And then the first matchup, which was when they nearly came back, damn well down 25, the same amount of points as New Mexico did, but they came up short because their defense sold and Reggie Butler led a game-winning drive that ended up being a game-winning field goal that got them the dub in overtime. The goal is now, like I said, playoffs and beat New Mexico and Vegas. If they beat those two teams, their playoff spot is basically solidified. The reason why they didn't, because they didn't beat New Mexico and they beat Vegas once, but they lost to them again right before they lost to Alaska right after. So they lost to all three division champions and all three division rivals this season. I believe they are, yeah, I think, yeah, they are the only, besides Alaska, they are the only other team to lose to every single team in the division. The only team that didn't really, well, the only really lost to each other was, well, keep it in the trilogy, the triple threat between Vegas, Salt Lake, and New Mexico. Alaska, like I said, they were a laughing stock, but they got the dub over the Rhinos and took them out the playoffs. They don't want that again. They don't want that feeling because they felt like they could have held their own against Vegas and they could have possibly stood a chance. I don't know. But Salt Lake's goal is to see where Frey can take them. How high will Frey take them? Will Frey be their quarterback of the foreseeable future? Well, is he the franchise, or will we see Zack Snyder come back in, or maybe Snyder starts week one? Maybe not. But give it being, like I said in the Alaska part, give it being the first game of the season. All right, spoiler warning. It's New Mexico. That's in New Mexico. It's Alaska versus Salt Lake. That's the first game of the season. But the goal for Salt Lake is playoffs. They make the playoffs and beat Salt Lake, beat New Mexico, and Vegas, the defending Super Bowl champions. That's how. That's what they're gonna have to do if they want to get in the playoffs and they want to have a shot at winning a Lombardi Trophy. But the real question to the fans, to the organization is Frey the guy? Now on to New Mexico. New Mexico. I changed the color as you guys can see. New Mexico. Where do I even begin? Where do I even begin? This team is pissed. But I mean pissed. They are infuriated that first the first playoff game they had in their stadium, number one overall seed in the NFL, they lost to the eventual Super Bowl champions who they beat in Week 17 in the Las Vegas Gamblers. And Douglas, who won the MVP, had 30 rushing TDs and over 1,000 yards, didn't even, was one and done. And Butler, Mr. Clutch, basically they kept the ball away from him. But the question is for Butler is New Mexico going to stay with Reggie? But after the way how consistent game winning drive after game winning drive after game winning drive, they felt like Reggie could go in paint. They were like, you know what? Go in paint for Reggie Butler. At first, in the beginning of the season, they were looking at quarterback. But then when they saw the fact that Reggie has that dog in him and that he has the ability to be clutch, that's all they needed. Now their goal is how can they get the pressure off of Douglas? How can they get Reggie Butler more weapons? Because the offensive line in terms of their offense is definitely not a problem because you guys saw Douglas. But their main focus is the weapons. Jake was a good weapon, but then sometimes when Jake got taken out, he went to Elliott or Malone, and also a lot of these New Mexico receivers get injured quickly yet again. A lot of people in this, well, all four teams get injured a lot. But give or take, New Mexico's goal is to basically up the front seven a little bit because my fault. They re-signed most of their offensive linemen and re-signed Hopkins to a 5-year, $29.10 million deal. My fault. I had to look at the notes real quick. But their goal was to help out Hopkins, help out that secondary, and go wide receiver. But in the first round, there was a possibility that could go with one of those three options. But they decided to go with Jamil Cole, the best wide receiver in the draft. That magically fell to their lap. The best wide receiver available fell to them. And not only that, they got a right end to be on the other side as Hopkins. So now they have themselves a possible number three target because the reason why I said number three is because in free agency, you guys are going to see who they got to give more weapons to Reggie Butler. Their goal this season for New Mexico is just one simple word. A word that you guys know vividly on the channel. And a team, and a squad that knows that very well is the brand, well, of course, the Connecticut Gladiators, is redemption. That's the word. Redemption and revenge. Because they did great last season. They were the number one seed, one of the best teams in the NFL, but they lost to their rival. They lost to Vegas. And then with the addition of Chad Ochocinco, who still got some gas left in the tank, and adding rookie Jamil Cole from LSU. You know how them boys from LSU are in terms of being wide receivers, not even in general. But their goal was add more offensive power and help out on the defense, help on the defensive line because at the end of the game against Vegas, Vegas ran the ball for most of the drive. They ran the ball, they killed the clock, and prevented Douglas and Butler from getting back on the field and perhaps putting on a game winning drive because they learned their lesson from the last time they went up against them. That's the thing about this division. That's the thing about mainly this rivalry between New Mexico and Vegas is that these two teams are so evenly matched that every time one team feels like they have the upper hand, the other one pulls an Uno reverse card or has an iconic or has a great moment. And also in the draft, they got another solid free safety and Duron James from Ohio, who's an 84 overall, who's overcooked. They got another free safety to help out the defensive backs. Like I said, New Mexico improved this season because they want revenge. And also, I changed the uniforms. Let me know down in the comments how the uniforms look because I changed it again after I recorded this. Cause I was like, but let me know if you guys like those uniforms. But I changed it back if you guys don't fully like it. But my fault. Because I basically did every team jerseys are different, but basically for like I said, revenge. Revenge is a simple, simple word, and it's a simple feeling that in a way has a lot of different emotions to it, a lot of different build to it. Douglas had a great season. Douglas is already one of the best running backs in the NFL. Butler proved, even though he may not be the best accurate passer, He may not have the best throwing season last season, but he proved to the league that yo, when there's a certain time left on the clock, people are gonna start getting PTSD from the other number 12 in the AFC. His name is Thomas Edward Patrick Brady Jr. But of course, you got Ocho Cinco, brand new addition. But think about it, the way how Butler was on every single game winning drive, every single game winning situation, the comeback against Salt Lake was unimaginable. A comeback that some viewers checked out of that game. And by the time they woke up or went to work or went to school, the next moment they heard New Mexico came back and won the game. Mainly off the fact that when shit gets tough, yeah, Butler's gonna make some mistakes in the beginning, but if you give him another chance, another opportunity to take the game into his hands, that's all he wants is the game to be in his hands. And that's what you want in a franchise quarterback. You want someone who wants the ball in their hands. But also with a great player like Douglas, MVP last season, their goal is to ease the pressure up off of him because they felt like they basically built their whole offense was just Douglas, and they know that Vegas this season is gonna adjust. Vegas is gonna adjust to that. Salt Lake's gonna adjust to that, and even Alaska will adjust the fact that Douglas was basically the main option. That's why they had to get some wide receivers to up the passing game, to help out the wide receiver, to help out the offense, so that way it takes the pressure off of Douglas. He can still run that run heavy offense, but when they need a pass, ooh, they got some wide receivers. Jake Ocho and rookie Jamil Cole. They got some stars, they got some bowlers on the team. But the goal is redemption and beat Vegas. They're of course they want to beat Salt Lake and they want to be Alaska, but the main team they want to beat is Vegas, the defending Super Bowl champions. How will New Mexico retaliate after last season? Because, like I said, they want their get back. They want to get even. They want to be in the Super Bowl because now they're even more pissed after seeing Vegas. Speaking about Vegas, the defending Super Bowl champions. The defending Super Bowl champion Las Vegas Gamblers. Case Thornhill did not play in the Super Bowl because Carr from the Baltimore Ravens took him out with a broken collarbone. But the defending champ's main goal was re-sign everybody, keep the same team. Don't really do anything special, really. Don't really do anything special, but just keep the same guys, keep everyone together, and just build upon that. And also the goal, for the love of God, protect Case Thornhill. That is literally their goal. Protect him. Because the fact that he got injured on that play and broke a broken collarbone, and some people are saying that what if he's not the same? What if Thornhill isn't the same player he was after he broke his collarbone? Now, of course, Aaron Rodgers came back from a broken collarbone, and that brother ended up balling and win a couple more MVPs after he did so. And of course, with a guy like Dallas Patton, his main target, who balled out this season, was also in the MVP race. This team are the odds-on favorite to repeat. Given being how the league is, they're on the odds-on favorite to repeat. Now, in terms of drafting, their main goal was to at least probably get a new running back in the replacement of Reina, but they also wanted to think of, all right, maybe we could get ourselves a wide receiver, but some of the wide receivers ain't gonna be on the board anymore. And also they also wanted to get some corners to help out the DBs because they saw the moment they saw the fact that New Mexico got Ocho Cinco, Vegas caught on to what they were trying to do. They knew they were going to try to elevate the passing game. Now for Vegas, they're kind of the opposite. They want to elevate the running game more than the pass because they still want to stick to their main pass heavy offense. Of course, with guys like Thornhill, Patton, and a stacked receiving core, what else can you really ask for? What else can you really ask for? Because between Vegas and New Mexico, they're kind of, how can I put this? How their rivalry will basically be, because it gotta be a division level reference. We could say Eagles Giants, because a little bit of back and forth talking shit, two teams that don't really like each other. And in the draft, I know I went through it quickly, but they got Javante Cook, running back, in the first round. And then they went tackle in the second, and then they went cornerback in the third, and went defensive tackle in the fourth. But the way how this offense looks now, they gained some more experience, and they're, as defending champions, like I said, they are arguably the odds-on favorite to run it back and do it again. But the thing is, the real competition that people are saying is their division. That is where the competition is. Vegas's competition is, of course, not just the entire NFL, but the three teams they have to go up against in the regular season to get to the playoffs, and the possibility of them running into them in the playoffs. Because again, there's a chance of a Super Bowl hangover. That is possible. This is sports. But the fact of the matter is, Vegas is the team to beat. Vegas is now the hunted. Meanwhile, everyone else is the hunter. And especially a pissed off New Mexico team. A Salt Lake team that just got a brand new quarterback. And, excuse me, and Alaska that had a great offseason. That in terms of the offseason video, who really won the offseason out of all four of these teams was Alaska. They won the offseason. Now that Case Thornhill is back, oh, he also wants revenge on his mom. Because he's mad at the fact that he didn't play in the Super Bowl and he won the Super Bowl MVP. It was the backup. Now some teams are raving over over him because they kind of do want the backup quarterback. But a lot of people are like, the reason why he did win is because Case wasn't playing. If Case was playing, he would have easily won that. Would have easily won that because they ain't gonna act like Vegas wasn't in the fight in the beginning of the game, but they ended up being a second half team at the all. They ended up getting the dub. As you see, I changed their uniforms too, but I was like, you know what? I kind of like the all white from the Super Bowl, so I was like, I kept it and I put in the uniforms, and I also, um, well, in a way to counter with Salt Lake's all black, so it was about to happen eventually. But Vegas's goal this season: repeat, repeat. That's it. Repeat, go back to the promised land and start building up this dynasty. That's their goal. Their goal is to build a dynasty. But how can you build a dynasty when your division is gunning for you? And not only that, two teams really could hold their own against them in Salt Lake and New Mexico. Two teams that beat them last season. They're the only team that didn't lose to Alaska. Vegas swept Alaska. The only team that they lost to was Salt Lake and New Mexico. The only team that really was the most intimidating or gave them the most challenge was New Mexico. Like I said, it's because those two teams are so evenly matched that when you guys saw those two matchups, it came down to the wire for all three matchups. This season, Vegas wants to repeat that. They want to repeat the winning. They want to repeat them going back to the Super Bowl, but this time they don't want to. They don't want to be, oh, we barely made the playoffs. No, they want to be how Aaron Rodgers was when the game came out after he won the Super Bowl. They want to be dominant coming out the gate and being one of the best teams overall in the entire league, led by the MVP. But of course, you don't want to end up like the Packers did, because no, I'm not sorry. Almost went off script. We're not going to talk about that incident. But Vegas's goal is repeat, but they know they're going to have a tough task. With all three teams, with the rest of the teams in the division stepping up their games, it puts a lot more pressure on defending champions. Can they do it again? We'll see. Now, for the outro.
Now that we've broken down and talked about all four teams, and you guys have seen all four teams, now for the closing remarks of this off-season video, in which we're gonna go into the schedule. Each team schedule one by one in alphabetical order. So first, we shall start with the New Mexico City Flames. They start off their schedule going up against the Atlanta Falcons at a 4 o'clock game. They take on the Carolina Panthers, and then they take on Salt Lake, a rivalry renewed. Well, the rivalry continues to say the least. Then they take on Alaska after they take on the Browns, prime time, mind you. Then against the Jets, then against the Gamblers. That's a matchup everyone's going to be looking forward to, that rematch. Monday Night Football against New Orleans, then have a bye. Then they're at Baltimore, then they're at Tennessee, then against Alaska, then they're at Vegas again, and then to end the season, they're against the Salt Lake Rhinos to end the season. So if it comes down to a possible playoff berth for New Mexico and Salt Lake, they got to go through each other. Now for Las Vegas, they take on the person that took out Case Thornhill in the AFC Championship game car, in which they take on the Baltimore Ravens in the AFC Championship game rematch. That'll be Monday prime time. So it looks like we're going to be doing 2 games on the first episode of the brand new season. Then Alaska takes on Vegas right after. Then week 4, Salt Lake takes on Las Vegas in a rematch from last season. Then week 7, as you guys saw, they take on the Flames in New Mexico. Then in week 10, they have a Thursday night game against Alaska. That's their last game against Alaska. Then they're on the road against Salt Lake, and then they're against New Mexico. And I believe, yep, that is it in terms of their conference matchups. Week 13 will be the last division game for Las Vegas. Now for the Alaska Hawks, as you guys have seen, they're gonna be opening up the season against the Rhinos. So it is the first overall pick taking on the 18th overall pick, but basically 2 rookie QBs faced off to start off the season. Then away at Las Vegas. Then they're against New Mexico in week 5. Then after the bye week in week 7 and the 2 games week 8 and 9, they have 3 straight division matchups. Thursday night against Las Vegas, away at Salt Lake, and then away at New Mexico. And then to close the season, they will take on the Carolina Panthers. So just like the New Mexico City Flames, they will have their last game on week 13. And then last and not least, the Rhinos. As you guys see, they play against the Alaska to start off the season. Then they're at New Mexico, as you guys saw. Then they're at Vegas. Then a couple games. Then week 11, they're against Alaska. Week 12, they're against Vegas. Then a bye. Then, of course, the final regular season game for them is against the Flames. Now the question is, like I said, the end when I was talking about Las Vegas, who will be the team to beat? Who is the team to beat? Is it Vegas? Maybe. Well, most likely they're the defending champions. Or is it a a team that's full of revenge in New Mexico City Flames? Or will the Gamblers emerge once again as Super Bowl champions and go back to back? Or will the Hawks finally to prove that they're not just going to be a laughing stock or something that people are going to walk over, that they can actually hold their own? But also the Rhinos, like I said in their section, they're looking to make the playoffs. Something's got to give. One team's going to come out of this as the winners. But to kick off the season, it is the battle of rookie quarterbacks. I'll see you guys next episode. I know, comment down below if you guys like this off-season format. What that good stuff. Let me know if you guys like it. If you guys didn't like it, then I won't do this again. But if you guys did like it, then I'll keep it up with it. I basically might do this for all off-season videos. I just write down notes and just do background footage also at the same time. So like, comment, sub, guys, with the channel notification if you guys are new. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you guys for season 2 of the Creative Division series, in which it's the Alaska Hawks taking on the Salt Lake City Rhinos and Vegas Baltimore. 2 matchups for the season 2 premiere. See you guys later. I'm out. Peace.